Welcome to E-commerce with Coffee, a podcast powered by Amber Engine, where we share e-com secrets for brands over your favorite brew. We start with the caffeine and then leap enthusiastically into behind-the-scenes e-com insights that led to the success of our guests. I'm Nate Svoboda, and I'm about to serve you up the best. Let's get started. Hey, Eddie, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am doing pretty well. Thank you very much for joining us today on our inaugural episode of the podcast. Really quick for our listeners, Eddie Porrello, he is our Director of Product Management here at Amber Engine. He studied mathematical and computer science at Stanford, and he really immediately launched his career into the world of e-commerce. So Eddie, would love if you could give us the high-level bullet points of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, being the inaugural guest is a bit intimidating. Hopefully, I don't let anyone down and produce some quality content. But just to kind of talk about how I ended up in e-commerce, I feel like it's a story that's similar to a lot of people. You kind of just end up there by chance, right? Like certain opportunities present themselves throughout your life, and you just take them as they come. And I just happened to, as I was graduating and looking for my first job out of school, I was, Stanford math and computer science, and almost basically everybody I knew was going into consulting or investment banking. That was just kind of the path. If you weren't going to grad school or academia, you were going to investment banking or consulting. A few were going into tech startups, which at the time meant Google and Facebook, and Twitter, which was brand new. And so I was doing the rounds, interviewing with like Goldman Sachs. I actually interviewed with Lehman Brothers right before they collapsed. I really kind of took stock of what I wanted to do, and realized that it wasn't for me. I wanted to do something. I had worked with nonprofits during my time in college, and I really wanted to work somewhere where I could have a positive impact on the world, and found this opportunity with a small bookseller at the time called Better World Books, which was an e-commerce shop. They sold used books online. They still do. They're one of the largest used booksellers in the world. And the position was for a marketing person, an e-commerce marketing person. And I was like, oh, this could be interesting. I talked to them, met their founder, really loved the mission, funding literacy initiatives around the world, donating books to children in need, providing textbooks to kids in Africa. Really, really great stuff. Made me really happy and excited to contribute. And I started off in e-com marketing, right? So I was running AdWords, running affiliate programs, running kind of email marketing, social media marketing. Again, at the time, social media was very new. So I built the company's Facebook page, their Twitter profile, and like got it from, brand new, nobody's doing this to 100,000 followers and all that kind of stuff, which was really exciting at the time. And then just kind of progressed from there, right? Within that organization, started to take on more product responsibilities, started to take on more e-commerce responsibilities, and really got deep into kind of the operational side of e-commerce. So how you run an e-commerce business. And Better World Books is a very unique e-commerce business in that, there are roughly 30 million SKUs, sell across 60 or 70 different channels, really competitive commodity market. So it strives to be zero. So you have to be very aggressive with your pricing. There's no difference between my copy of Harry Potter and your copy of Harry Potter. So the only thing that's going to convince a customer to buy is oftentimes price. So I started running the pricing part of the business and the algorithms behind that pricing and all of the strategies, and really went deep into that. And then over time, just kind of organization grew a bunch and decided to move on from the selling side to the software side of e-commerce, and found myself in a series of startups kind of supporting businesses sell online, having had the experience of trying to sell online in a very competitive space. I had a pretty good idea of the kinds of things that you need to do in order to succeed. And I wanted to focus on developing software that helped brands and manufacturers achieve those results. So that's kind of where my career has taken me and how I ended up here really at Amber Engine.
Yeah, well, it seems like that's where you've gotten, right, on the software side, developing platforms that'll help businesses, be able to better reach their consumers online, especially in the ever shifting landscape of e-commerce. I guess in the name of our podcast, I feel like I need to ask the question, Eddie, given all of the hats that you wear and all the things you do on a day-to-day basis, what role does caffeine play in your life? I know the answer for me personally. I'm curious to hear for you.
Yeah, ironically, it plays no role at all. I these days I'm pretty much exclusively drinking water. I caffeine has I have an interesting relationship with caffeine. It dates back to my childhood. I'm Cuban Venezuelan, and my family very much it's traditional to have coffee after dinner, right? As it is in many Hispanic cultures, and so as a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, my grandmother would give me café con leche, coffee with milk, and really way too much sugar right before bed. And so as I was getting ready for bed, I would have coffee with milk and Cuban bread and butter, and I would dunk the bread in the coffee and drink the coffee and eat the bread, and then go to sleep. And so my relationship with coffee in particular and caffeine in general is kind of an inverse relationship. It brings me this sense of comfort. I imagine it's what like most people associate with something like hot chocolate, right? Like it's something cozy that you just want to like get a blanket and go to bed, which is really not very, very productive if you're trying to build something or get to work, right? It's not not right. What you want.
Even though we may all want to take a nap during the middle of the day, it's not always conducive to a productive work day, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I wish that I drank more water. I've got my cold brew that's always near at hand for me, and I definitely feel like I'd be asleep right now if I hadn't been drinking it. So definitely very, very interesting. I know a few people that have similar experiences, but well, Eddie, really want to dive in. 2020, I think it goes without saying, was a very interesting year for e-commerce. I mean, I've read in a number of publications, we saw 10 years worth of e-commerce growth in just the past 12 months. Now, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on what is one of the least obvious changes that you haven't heard people talking about as much in relation to e-commerce.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not obvious or under the radar per se, but I think people are underestimating the step function nature of the changes that we just went through. I think especially in certain industries, and we're starting to see some of these reports come out now that really quantify this, but particularly in things like grocery, right, which is one of the largest categories in retail period, saw a massive adoption growth in e-commerce by necessity, right? We couldn't go to the grocery store. We had to order, right? We got things like Instacart and, various other platforms out there that, grocers themselves got acquired by H-E-B here in Austin. A handful of these kind of services popped up of delivery, and really people got more and more comfortable with other people picking out their fruit for them or other people bringing their groceries to their door. I know personally, I haven't stepped foot in a grocery store in over a year. And going forward, I probably won't be setting foot in grocery stores very often, right? It's not something that I used to do. It wasn't something that was part of my routine, but going forward, it certainly will be. And I know that grocery has been kind of the mecca for these Walmarts and these brands, Amazon, right? Amazon Fresh with Whole Foods, et cetera, really kind of pinpointed as the vertical where the most growth potential was. And at this point, we've seen probably, as you were saying, like 10 years worth of adoption in the last 12 months. So it's really kind of a very significant sea change in the industry that happened very quickly. And what we'll see is, people will, as things open up, we'll see the numbers dip a little bit. But where we end up after all this is said and done will be a significant amount of growth there. We'll see a huge step forward in adoption. And And that's, I think people are underestimating how big a deal that is. That is kind of where the majority of purchases and dollars are spent, on consumer packaged goods, on things that perish. And e-commerce just saw major adoption growth in that area.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, I have a fairly strong understanding of the offering Amber Engine provides in a product information management solution. But before we talk about some changes within developing the platform, can you help our viewers know what is a PIM solution?
Sure. So product information management is a suite of tools, traditionally is a suite of tools that helps you centralize your product data and manage your product data. So the information about what you sell as a brand or manufacturer, right? Your product images, your product names, your descriptions, your marketing bullets, all of that kind of data associated with a product is stored in this centralized system and made available to across your organization for people to collaborate and deliver that data to partners. Traditionally, PIM has been, it's a fairly nascent field, I would say, despite it being around for quite a while. So PIM has existed in some form or another for 20 years now, probably, maybe even more. But the industry and the trend, the way things are sold and the way that brands and manufacturers interact with their retail partners has changed dramatically over that time. So the industry is undergoing a vast change as everything else changes around it, right? As things become more and more digital, as brands realize that their data needs to be personalized and more targeted to end users, as retailers fight amongst each other for wallet share and mind share of customers, these kind of second level operations become more and more important. So optimizing and tweaking and integrating directly and sending data to your partners, and all of these different pieces of the e-commerce puzzle get pulled into solutions like PIM. And so that's kind of the direction the industry is going. But PIM itself is really at its core a place to centralize your data, to manage your data, to govern that data so that you can set rules around it, and then to ultimately, in some cases, in some of the more advanced and more modern PIMs, syndicate that out to channels and partners so that you can activate it across your touch points.
Right. And you touched on this a little bit a second ago, but just to expand on it or really hit the nail on the head, how have the priorities you as the director of product management changed in regards to developing this tool, right? I mean, in the past few years, has it been mostly because of new needs you've heard from potential customers? Has it been, pressure from more and more brands entering the e-commerce realm? Help me understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a number of things. So I think there are a couple of major shifts, right, that have happened over the last, 10, 15, 20 years or so, right? More and more brands have started to sell online. And the online portion of their sales has become a larger share of their overall market or overall revenue. And so as these, retailers like Amazon, Walmart shop, investing a ton of money into their .com experience, a lot of direct to consumer and more niche marketplaces popping up here and there have come around. The need for centralizing your data and the flexibility required to meet all of those different requirements across the gamut of channels a brand might sell on has become more important. So PIMS, again, at its core was really about getting your own data in order, right? Like getting your house in order. It was usually owned by IT. They own the master copy of your data, and they had, all of the governance and rules and checks on making changes to that data. So if you wanted to change your marketing copy, you would need to go to your IT guy and submit a ticket and wait a week or 2 weeks, and then they would make that change for you in your data. That doesn't work, right? As the world becomes more digital and as the marketplace requires and demands more flexibility and adaptability, that old paradigm just falls short entirely. So we've really PIMs in general, I would say, but us specifically have focused on building something that enables you to get your data into one place, right? Still fulfill the original promise of a PIM, manage that data and set your own rules around what is required, what isn't, create workflows and ways to enrich and optimize your data internally, but then in turn support many versions of your data that will ultimately end up going out to the different channels, because a customer on Costco is very different than a customer on Kroger, is very different than a customer at Amazon. And those channels have different requirements for what they need because of that. And so in order to really deliver and be as successful as possible in this digital world, you need to optimize for those endpoints. And so we're really focused on building a tool that allows you to, one, keep your data in order and centralized and organized, but two, allow you the flexibility to build out versions of your data for each of those endpoints in a quick and easy way that references and leverages the information that you're managing and tweaking and optimizing, but really ensures that you're going to send the right data in the right format with the right messaging at the right time, so that when that customer hits that product page on Walmart.com, they see information that's relevant to them and that's more likely to make them buy, more likely to make them happier, have a better experience, build brand loyalty, so that they keep coming back and maybe tell a friend or two.
And you just made a lot of great points, right? I mean, someone who's shopping on Wayfair likely has a different intention than someone who's buying something on Target or on Costco.com or, insert any other marketplace or channel. But with the huge rise that we've been seeing in direct to consumer selling, brands have to have a big personality, right? And some of the most successful brands that we've seen have really spent a lot of time and resources fleshing that personality out. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts. How can that personality be pumped or come through in product data?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good point that you bring up, because the reality is the product page today is probably the most valuable piece of real estate you have when it comes to interacting with customers. What we tell brands and what we work with, when we work with manufacturers and brands, we tell them that, this is probably the spot where you will establish that relationship with the customer, whether they're buying online or not. I know from personal experience, when I'm, before, when I was allowed to go into stores, I would go into a store, and if I were buying something, the first thing I would do is pull out my phone and look up that product on the website or on Amazon or on Walmart or wherever, and read reviews, look at their product data, look at their information about how the product is used. So things like lifestyle images, things like, romance copy or lifestyle type copy, the below the fold kind of enhanced content, rich media type content, all of that stuff is really your billboard as a brand to broadcast your message, to kind of really connect with your audience and give them the real full picture of who you are, the aspirational pieces of your brand, whatever it might be that connects you with a customer. That's where that interaction is going to happen. Increasingly, it's product pages and social is becoming even more of an e-commerce type channel. But those are the spots where you're really, the smart brands, the ones that are really winning online, are investing a ton of resources to making sure that their messaging is tight and making sure that it's resonating with their audiences, and also recognizing that the same message might not resonate with every audience. So, your message to a Costco buyer is probably different than your message to a Walmart buyer or, a high-end boutique buyer. And so your content needs to reflect that. And that's how you can capture the most share. And that's how, frankly, we see smaller businesses that are direct to consumer competing with these, monolithic, gigantic mega corporations that have hundreds of years of history, because e-commerce really levels that playing field.
Absolutely. And Eddie, I want to be conscious of your schedule. You're an extremely busy guy. Do you have time for one more question?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think this is one that I'm really curious to hear your answer on. I'm sure our listeners are too. What's on the horizon for new PIM features that are in development, either coming up soon or maybe a little bit more down the product roadmap? I'm hoping you can give us maybe a bit of a sneak preview.
Sure. Yeah, we've been so basically since I joined Amber Engine about a year ago, we've been focused pretty much exclusively on delivering the next generation of PIM. And so we're getting close to the point where that's going to be released. And again, it's a lot of the things that I've been talking about. It's really kind of building on some of those foundational elements that exist in PIM, and optimizing and setting them up to really succeed, setting a brand up to succeed and get value from the solution right away. So for us, it's about building on that baseline, and building a tool that really lets brands get their data in right away. This is something that, in my experience working in PIMS in the last 5 years or so, it's been very much a challenge to get data in, right? Usually PIMS and solutions like it are very much whatever quality of data you put in is the quality of data you get out. And they don't have the tools necessary to really allow you to enrich and optimize your data within the solution. So oftentimes what that means is long onboarding processes that force users to, spend a lot of time working in Excel before they ever upload their data into the system and start using it. So what we wanted to do was build those enrichment and optimization tools directly into the product so that you can get your data in on day one and start messing around and start getting value out of it. And so that's been a major focus of ours. And then again, like we talked about, it's really about having the rigidity necessary to ensure that you're sending the right data to channels, but having the flexibility necessary to ensure that you can generate the kinds of experiences that you want to generate for your own direct-to-consumer sites, and for your own kind of customer base. So it's a balance of taking what's worked really well in the industry and what we see kind of working really well in the industry and building on it to address some of its shortcomings that I've seen across the industry in the PIM space.
Right. And I obviously won't hold you to this, but any idea when we might be able to expect some of these awesome new features?
It'll be within the next couple of months for sure. I know our head of development would probably strangle me if I gave a specific date, so I'll avoid doing that. But yeah, we're actively working on this stuff. We've started to showcase some of this stuff in beta format for some internal users and others. And it's really special and really exciting stuff. All of the feedback we've been getting has been fantastic. And I can't wait for it to be out in the world. Having spent, the last 12 months or so working on it. And really I'm excited for brands to get their hands on it and really take advantage of some of these features and tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for the stuff to come out. And, obviously I think we'll have to get you back on the show to talk to us a little bit more about it when we have something to show. But Eddie, really, really can't thank you enough for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm lucky that I get to talk to you on a regular basis. So I'm going to let you get to your next meeting, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. Really appreciate
Thanks, Eddie. That's it for this episode of E-Commerce with Coffee, powered by Amber Engine. If you haven't gotten your fix yet, be sure to get more e-commerce brand secrets on our website at amberengine.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more episodes.